Okay, everybody. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to take the exhaust manifold off on your OMC Cobra. Kind of tedious. To be honest with you, the hardest part about removing this is how heavy it is and how awkward it is. The second is going to be removing those worm clamps up there and knowing which ones you need to remove so you can get this off. In your application, you may notice some need to get removed more than others, but we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we have our bolts and then our wires that need to come out. There's also down here a worm clamp that connects into for the water hose. That will need to come off. So, some little things here to expect. So let's flip around on top and get this thing started. One of the items that you're going to need to remove is this 9/16 bolt up here. That 9/16 holds the engine bracket. So one of the things you don't really need to worry about doing is, disconnecting all this. I'm sure you spent a lot of time, configuring all this. So the last thing you want to do is take that all apart. That's why they give you just that 9/16 to take off. And then up here where your solenoid is, there is I believe that's a 1/2 inch that you can disconnect. And then down below as well. One thing to keep in mind too here is when you are working near your solenoids, or solenoid is, you have these covers, especially where the red one comes through. There's a lot of voltage. In my case, I got 2 batteries hooked up together, so that it's super bad if you get these things touching. So definitely disconnect the battery by all means when you're doing this, because you don't want to start a fire. All right, so like I said, there's this one right here. I believe this is going to be a 1/2 inch. And then there's one right below the solenoid that holds this guy on. And then you have another worm clamp. I have mine connected. This is how we used to secure stuff on an aircraft. So that's my little thing. But yeah, you just take this worm clamp off and that'll disconnect the harness. Let's go ahead and start doing that. I'll walk you through now that you got a brief overview of what we're going to be working on here. Okay, and I got this one on. Let's see, are we loose? Actually, it looks like I lied. We have one more in there. All right, right down here. You can kind of see it. There's a 3/8. Go ahead and remove that. Okay. And you'll see how you can set that aside. And that kind of allows you full access here. So let's go after the solenoid now. I got the battery disconnected, and we'll take that apart. All right, and this bolt right here is actually a 7/16, so you can go ahead and start removing that one. Okay, so get the first 7/16 with the solenoid. You may be tempted to kind of move these cables around to get to it. What you can do is just take your solenoid and roll it down. Once you roll it down, it gives you full access to take that 7/16 out. Okay. Okay, so there you go. Notice when you put this thing back, make sure you put that ground wire back on that bottom. Otherwise, you're going to have some accessories that are not working, so don't forget that. Easily could forget it if you're not careful. That is a ground for your solenoid. All right, so next thing is take this worm clamp off. In my case, I have a few extra zip ties on it, but I'll cut those off and we'll loosen that guy up. Okay. And that's it. All right, let's go down below, now that we got all that disconnected, and we'll start pulling out the plug wires. Now, a word of caution here is, if you never put any of the electrical, they call it like dielectric grease on these, you're going to do 2 things. You're either going to ruin your boot or you're going to ruin the little electric piece that's in here, so be prepared for that. Taking off your exhaust manifold could cost you $50. That's how much new wire sets are for OMC. So be prepared for that. These are some aftermarket straight boots. If you're curious, if you're seeing this video, do I recommend straight boots? Absolutely not. These are the worst things ever. They're super hard to put on, but I wanted to try them out to see how they were going to work. They work good functionally, but it's just because they are straight boots, they're so hard to get in there, even with dielectric grease. So that's something to keep in mind here. As you're pulling these out, chances are you're going to ruin one of the boots. So if you're trying to get all your pieces and parts together for this type of kit, probably should order some plug wires. Just saying, probably going to happen. All right, so yeah, go ahead and remove your plug wires. Some people, they like to mark it down, which cylinders or what. I do it all afterwards by hand just to verify. I don't know, but yeah, some people will take a little, like a marker, and they'll mark which cylinders for each one. But not going to do it in my case. But yeah, to each his their own. All right, so go ahead and remove your plug wires. All right, pretty easy, right? Yeah, right. I got a lot of dielectric grease on mine, so mine came out pretty good. And I've had mine out not too long ago, so nothing surprising here. So what we're going to do now is let's go after this worm clamp for the water pump, the one that's kind of hiding right here. Yeah, go ahead and loosen that one up. Okay, so once you get it, the worm clamp loosened, there's really no easy way to say this. What you're going to have to do is grab the hose. Let's see if I can grab the right one here with all these wires. And you just basically shake it. You're wanting to kind of loosen this up. Some people will go as far as taking and putting like a little, yeah, it's loosened up pretty good. Obviously you can see a little water coming out. But yeah, they'll take a little, flathead to kind of loosen up any kind of deposits that have kept this thing in place. But that's pretty much what you can expect. Put at least 5 minutes of time on that one because it's not going to be easy. I mean, you can see I've been working this for a few seconds and I got it to move a little bit. So take your time, have patience on this one, and go ahead and remove that. See there, as we got the hose off, we got a little water come out, completely normal. All right, let's go to the back here. So see that little plug? That's for draining at the end of the season. You don't need to remove that, so don't worry about that. All right. What we're going to do now is we're not going to loosen these bolts. We're not quite there yet. We're going to go after these worm clamps up here. Okay. So obviously, one of the two of the most obvious worm clamps that have to be removed are these two. So go ahead and start by removing these two. Now let me show you what I like to do, and this is just my own preference. I like to remove these two next. I leave this one alone, and the reason I like to remove this one is because what you can do is once you remove these two, you can wiggle this from the top, this manifold, and it'll pop up. Once this pops up, then this will allow it to come out and up. So remember, as you're doing this, yeah, don't worry about taking these off. Just go after just these two, okay? So let's go ahead and remove these two, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, as you see there, see how I got a screwdriver flathead? You just kind of work it around the entire manifold, and that'll kind of help loosen up any kind of deposits there, all right? And once you have that loosened up, what we're going to do next is go from the top and then pull this upwards. Okay, so take a look at what I got here. And the way that I achieved this was a rocking motion back and forth. And basically its pivot point is right there, where that other coupler is. It takes a while. I mean, I've had mine off every year, so yeah, not too hard. But for yours, just imagine, you're going to have to rock this back and forth. Take your time. It's going to be kind of aggravating, but you'll get it. And once you get to this point, you can just push it off and then tilt it to the side, and you'll be good to go. All right, so you'll see here, we've got a few 9/16. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remove those first, and then we'll move on from that point. One of the things you're going to notice when you're pulling these 9/16 off is sometimes the studs come off with it. That's kind of normal. You can separate those later on if needed. I probably would, and then thread them in by themselves. You can kind of see I marred up that one a little bit because I've had that happen already. But yeah, if you see it, we can fix that later on. Now, you may think it's time to take them off, but there's actually 1/2-inch bolts that are still in there. You can kind of see it. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah. So you got to remove those guys first before this thing is going to come off. And don't worry too much because it will sit. The manifold will sit on those studs. So, but yeah, just be careful as you're removing it, because that is basically all it's holding it once you pull out these 1/2-inch bolts right here. All right, so go ahead and remove those. All right. Here's a good shot of what they look like, little 1/2 inches. So yeah, once you remove all those, you're going to actually notice that the manifold itself kind of gets a little loose. You may have to shake it a little bit to kind of loosen it off that exhaust manifold gasket. But yeah, now is your time to go ahead and give it a good shake. Okay, you can kind of see mine started moving immediately. So I'm going to switch positions and go towards the top. Okay. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to have one hand where this the exhaust starts to flow out, and try to have your other hand as low as you can down here to kind of help stabilize it. Keep in mind, this guy, or I guess a girl for that matter, is pretty heavy. I'd say every bit of like 40-50 pounds. So be very careful if you're working in an engine compartment. Don't be under this manifold when it comes out. It's very awkward and super hard to move. And yeah, this is pretty much the most dangerous part right here. And if you've never picked one of these exhaust manifolds up before, you're going to quickly find out how heavy it is. So yeah, keep that in mind. Have a spotter to kind of help jump in here at a moment's notice and help you out. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take that out now. All right, so how was that? Pretty easy? Kind of awkward, like I said, and if you've never lifted one up before, not the easiest of tasks, but this is a good time to kind of go in and replace that exhaust manifold gasket, which mine is pretty well stuck in there. I'll go ahead and get down below and remove that, but you kind of saw the ins and outs on how to get this apart. Not too hard, not too tedious, just make it easy and disconnect everything how I showed you. And this process will go through super easy. So anyway, as always, hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, leave any comments. Just in case you're wondering, the other side is pretty much identical other than having to remove the ESA module. So we won't go through that part, but yeah, this is how to remove a exhaust manifold on an OMC Cobra. Have a good one.